welcome everyone to this new podcast, New World Workforce. This is episode 1. And with me today, I have my co-host, Angel Bush. In this podcast, we're going to examine trends impacting the workforce now and in the future. And we're also going to learn about career opportunities provided by those trends. And we're going to examine ways for you to prepare for the changing workforce environment. So before we dive into some special guests that we have today, we're going to do introductions. So I'm Myra Roldan. I'm a senior technical program manager with AWS Machine Learning University. And I've been in industry for longer than I care to admit. So I won't tell on myself right now, but I've been an engineer since the internet was born, which feels like a very long time. Angel.
Yes, my name is Angel Bush, and I am the founder of Black Women in Artificial Intelligence. I happen to get into artificial intelligence really kind of by mistake. I started attempting to build robots. And so I was attempting to build a robot. I attended an event, and as I was in the event, I did not see a full reflection of myself. And so I continue to hear throughout the event that artificial intelligence is, this life-changing industry. It's revolutionary, and one of the things that came to my mind, it's the fourth industrial revolution. But one of the things that came to my mind is certainly you can't have a revolution without Black women. And so therefore, that was the genesis of Black Women in Artificial Intelligence, where we are here to educate, engage, embrace, and empower. And so that is how I got started in artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I love that. That's such an empowering story. And so before we get started, I have a couple stats that I thought it would be interesting to kick this episode off with. So everyone knows about the layoffs that have been happening in tech, right? So then people are like, should I be going into a job in tech, right? So I'm going to give you some really high level stats. So since mid 2022, 208,181 employees have been laid off by 785 tech companies year to date. And so it makes it sound like tech is dying, right? But in reality, we're not. And there's always a bigger picture to all of this. And I read this article around, the gap between all these layoffs and the talent gaps that still exist. So I wanted to share with you. So some of this you can find on layoff.fyi, which is super interesting. They kind of track layoffs in industry. But in this article, it says that 43% of organizations are still facing a skills gap. And which is amazing. And 44% say that they expect a skill shortage within the next 5 years too. So there's an opportunity still in the workforce for all of this. So this is going to be the conversation we're having today is around AI, because it's on everyone's mind. Who hasn't heard of ChatGPT? And it's going to take over the world.
Yes.
So we should introduce our first guest. So I'd like to introduce everyone to Elizabeth McGee from Intel. So Elizabeth is GM of State and Local Government and Education Sales at Intel Corporation. So welcome, Elizabeth.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So do you want to sprinkle a little bit more onto your intro?
Well, suffice it to say that in my role, it's really about supporting state, local governments with digital transformation. That obviously includes a lot of talk of AI today, and also working with educational institutions. That could be digital skilling for K through 12, supporting AI research at universities. And then, of course, we have a program where we provide curriculum for universities and community colleges like Houston Community College.
Great. Thank you. That's great. Yeah. So AWS Machine Learning University is also partnering with Houston Community College. So we have a joint interest in helping Houston really set a playground for AI. And you guys are cutting edge at Houston Community College. So I have a few questions for you, and Angel, you can hop in with, if you have like burning questions that come to mind. But first of all, can you give us like a big picture, like really short intro as to like, how is Intel using AI right now?
Yeah, so I can't do that in a short time frame, but kind of where you might expect it. We are fundamentally a manufacturing company. So we're using computer vision to identify defects coming off the line and to do root cause analysis. We're using AI for supply chain optimization, so forecasting capacity constraints or customer demand signals. Obviously, we use AI in our tools that are available through SaaS models. Kind of a more interesting application might be fluid dynamics to help ensure that we have like a net zero effect on our water usage. And then we're looking at large language models for supporting, the translations required for our documentation and things like that. So kind of anywhere we can find it that it adds value, we're looking at it.
Okay, so that's great. So you said a lot of big words. So for everyone that's listening, how would Intel and you as a representative define what artificial intelligence is for people who are just like not really sure?
Well, I suppose the most basic way to say it is it's just a tool set. It's just tools to help us think faster and smarter. So it essentially is, can I take data from multiple different sets and look for patterns and be able to predict things? So it's just being a smarter human because you've got a little friend in the computer.
I love that. So when we think about AI and the way you described it and what Intel is doing, what kind of like entry-level jobs could someone, let's say a student at Houston Community College, aspire to?
Well, there are many options that are technical jobs, of course, right? So data scientist or data analyst. You could be a software programmer or machine learning engineer. But that's the making the AI work. But making the AI work for you is in every job. So we would look for employees that have a skill set, a competency, a data literacy in AI, so that they would be able to say, hey, for my job function, whether that's HR or legal or sales, I'm conscious of my opportunity to improve my output by using data more effectively.
Yeah, I love that. That was so easy to understand. So we're keeping these segments really short. Elizabeth, I want to thank you for having this quick conversation with us. I hope that we get to have you back to dive even deeper into what Intel's doing and how it's impacting jobs.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for joining us.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. If you could see you through my eyes instead of your ego, I believe you'd be surprised to see that you've been blind. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Yeah, before you abuse, criticize and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
And we're back with New World Workforce. And next up is our guest, Mr. Louis Stewart, who is the head of strategic initiatives at NVIDIA. How are you, Louis?
I'm doing well, Angel. Nice to see you. Nice to see everybody. Thanks for having me today.
Well, thank you so much for being here. We want to talk about AI. We've talked about ChatGPT. You know, the world is talking about ChatGPT. Everyone is talking about artificial intelligence. Talk to me about NVIDIA. NVIDIA is doing some incredible things in this area. So give us some information and some insight.
Yeah, so happy to try. NVIDIA is a platform company at the end of the day, right? So our chips are, a lot of people know us for the gaming chips and transforming the way the graphics are displayed for video games. But nowadays, our chips are being used to fuel ChatGPT, help speed up research, and really help enable a lot of the innovations that are happening out there across sectors, whether that be manufacturing, retail, or just research at universities. We're trying to make sure that folks are able to do their life's work.
So in doing that life's work, as you mentioned, which I absolutely love that, how can they participate? How can people participate in artificial intelligence at NVIDIA? We know that artificial intelligence has a branding problem. Right now, people believe that all artificial intelligence is tech related. So tell me, how can people do their life's work at NVIDIA through artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I think, similar to what the previous guest Elizabeth said, there's a whole bunch of different angles that folks can get involved with artificial intelligence. We have folks here at NVIDIA that specialize in marketing, program management, project management. Obviously, we have researchers and engineers, but it really takes a community to help fuel the engine that is artificial intelligence and input from everybody to make sure that the breadth and depth of the knowledge and data that gets fed into these models is as diverse as the world is. It takes a whole bunch of different outlets to make sure that the right information is getting out to folks and that people have access and opportunity to engage with it. Through tools like ChatGPT, being able to democratize that access is going exponentially faster these days.
Okay, you mentioned building a community. So as the head of strategic initiatives at NVIDIA, what is your role in building those communities?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So I was brought on almost 3 years ago to NVIDIA to actually help drive interest and input into what's called our Deep Learning Institute to help train and bring on more developers. A lot of that is dealing with minority serving institutions, community colleges like Houston Community College, and bringing AI to underrepresented communities really globally. You do that through individual discrete partnerships or larger initiatives, whether that be one-on-one with organizations like Black Women in AI or Houston Community College, or at the federal and state level, where we look at training large masses of people over a period of time to make sure that different communities are AI enabled and don't get left behind.
And so in order to participate, in order to not be left behind, what are some initiatives or what are some key signature programs that you guys have right now?
Yeah, well, my first I'll just say, in order not to get left behind, get engaged and start playing around with the tools that exist. AI tools haven't been this accessible ever, considering AI has been around since the 70s. But now's the time to really get involved and start playing and actually creating. For most people, it's time to become a kid again and start creating your job and your future. So here at NVIDIA, we're working with organizations to do cohort style learnings where you actually engage with all the subject matter experts here at NVIDIA, whether that be computer vision or marketing. We even have conversations about ethics in AI because that's going to be a new job, AI ethicists. So it's important for us to look at the wide swath of engagements, whether that be internships or pre-internships through our Ignite program, where we look at junior or freshmen and sophomores at university and community colleges to come in and participate and start learning how to do the different things from marketing to finance to actually engineering and work on real world problems and real world projects, not just filing and what typically folks are seen doing at internships.
Myra, do you have any questions for Lewis?
I do. So you shared a lot about skills and these new jobs that are like potentially coming out. So let's have some fun. What jobs do you predict or do you see might start to emerge into the workforce that people may want to have like their ear to the radar?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. I think that the easiest answer is going to be the prompt engineer, right? Everybody can become a prompt engineer by learning how to engage with tools like ChatGPT and some of the other generative AI tools that are out there. Myself, I dabble quite a bit on the platform, just learning how to ask the right questions in order for AI to assist in some of my day-to-day tasks. I mentioned the AI ethicists. There's going to be folks that have to be sitting around thinking how to make sure that the guardrails are properly being put in place for AI to have positive impact on the world. And those are just two. I think if you keep going down the list, you can get to a place where you can have AI auditors that are in companies trying to make sure that the company is following whatever regulations get put in place when they get put in place, so that things don't spiral out of control and you hear all the doomsday warnings, that they hopefully don't come true. But I think a lot of the companies out there are really at a new inflection point in the types of jobs that are going to be needed within a company. But then everybody that's watching this podcast should really be thinking about what it is that AI can enable for them to make it easier, whether that's marketing, a new platform that you're developing, or if you always thought about being a songwriter, sit down and collaborate with an AI and start writing music and becoming a producer. So there's so many things that this new technology revolution is enabling that everybody should be having a good time.
Yeah, I agree with that. So what's interesting, so I'm in Vegas, so I'm not in Houston with all of you. And I'm a foodie. So I love trying new foods. And I went to this restaurant that opened, it's a ghost kitchen or a cloud kitchen. And so the owner was telling me that they're non-native English speakers, so they're Spanish, and his daughter used ChatGPT to help translate all the things that he wrote in Spanish into English to be able to do like all of their menus and stuff like that, which I thought was genius, right? So yeah, thank you so much. So Angel, you want to wrap this segment up?
Well, Lewis, thank you so much for being a part of the New World Workforce podcast. We appreciate you. This again is Lewis Stewart, the head of strategic initiatives at NVIDIA. Thank you, sir.
That's my pleasure.
My daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops.
All right, and welcome back to the New World Workforce. And up next is our guest, Ayman Husain from Microsoft. He's a director of customer success for Azure data and AI. And so we're going to have a little fun. This is going to be kind of a speed round. So let me start with a story. I don't know if you've heard this, but did you hear about the DJ in Portland who cloned her voice and then he created this avatar called AI Ashley, which was a clone of herself. And that AI Ashley got a 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. slot on the radio station. And it calls like people for giveaways and stuff. It's crazy. So let's talk a little bit about like the disruption that AI is going to cause around potential job displacement. So what are your thoughts on that, Ayman?
Hey, it's a great segue, right? There is going to be disruption that AI will use in the global workforce everywhere, but it's not going to be job elimination. I use the photographer model, for example. When I was early in my college days, I used to be a photographer and I used to do print and I used to do actual chemical-based photography. Now, well, that has kind of fallen out of the wayside. You don't have Kodachrome film anymore. You can't buy it openly as you could in those old days. You don't have those click cameras that you find at the store shelves in a grocery store. But what you have is Adobe Photoshop and digital media for photography editing. But you still need to know what lighting looks like and photography looks like and the exposure of composition and the need to do these things because that's not going away. The job will morph. It will change, but it will not eliminate. So it is going to augment humanity. And that's the thing that you're talking about this DJ. She augmented herself by getting a slot that otherwise she would have to stay up for and do. Now she can go take a nap and not have to be involved in it. But being a DJ is not a computer program. You still need to know music. You still need to know how it works in the world. So it's going to augment humanity. Some jobs will unfortunately disappear, but it'll not eliminate. The workforce will still need us, and humans will be a big part of it.
Yeah, so I actually read a report. So I do a lot of reading, which is dangerous, but I read a report that said that in the next 5 years, over 300,000 jobs would be eliminated because of AI. And I know that everyone's like, "Oh my God, I'm going to be replaced by AI." What's like the like, is that ethical? Like, are there some considerations around that?
There's an ethical consideration, but that ethical consideration is actually also mitigated by some things that are already in place in the world today. For example, I could get my medication filled by an online pharmacy, but that online pharmacy will not dispatch that medication unless there's a real pharmacist on the other end that says, oh yes, you need this antidepressant or you need these medicines for whatever purposes, and they will not dispense that unless you maybe even have insurance or maybe even have a doctor that prescribed it, right? So the ethical concerns are there in industries that did not have those kind of policing guidelines. Healthcare seems to be ahead of it because you can't go to a digital doctor and get all the diagnoses. You still have to go get test results. I mean, like we still have a disruption there. For example, in the same consideration, doctors will ask for the same test 3-4 times because they don't feel that the test results done by the previous doctor are accountable unless they ordered it, right? So there's some challenges in the ethics part of it, but ethics will become a cornerstone of it. Keep in mind, when we talk about ChatGPT and large language model solutions, they are trained on existing stuff by the model itself. So you won't have creative work of literature and poetry just come out of the woodwork. It'll be taken from these content that was used for training. And so people are not training with new models and new content, it'll get stale after a while. So the ethical concern is how do we keep ahead of it? Now, in the publishing industry, we have copyright laws that last, 25 years, and then it becomes public domain. So I think we'll see some of those kind of considerations built into it, but it's too early. I hope there's good governance behind it. And you know what? It's not the government that's going to do the governing. It's the public sector that will. So we have to rise up as a community from these education institutions and figure out what is ethical and what is not.
So tell me, what is Microsoft doing to ensure accountability when it comes to ethics?
It's a great question. I'm glad you bring it up. So from the perspective of Microsoft as a company, we have this organization called Responsible AI. And one of the things we have to understand about responsible AI is not the responsibility of the company, but the responsibility of the society. So we have created some guidelines. It's kind of like these laws of robotics. Like we are creating guidelines about certain things that we will prevent from having what we call hallucinations in the industry of AI, or in the case of just generating malicious content. So we're creating these grounding rules in our platform. So Microsoft, obviously a commercial organization, saying Azure is a platform. But if you want to use Azure AI for the platform, the grounding rules that are built into it will prevent you from saying, how do I make a bomb? Or because the minute you ask that, it'll just come back and say, sorry, I don't have the information for you, and will bypass it, even if it was trained against it. So that responsible AI is a industry discipline. And if you think about it, everybody does it for commercial purpose and a profit purpose. We're doing for the purpose that we don't want certain things that will eventually come impact us as a company, right? We don't want our intellectual property out there that allows you to build the next operating system, right? And so we are creating this responsible AI about how this content can be used, and we're using our compliance office and our legal office to actually create an organization globally. And OpenAI, the organization itself, it's nonprofit. It was designed for the fact that we will have a consortium of people building against it. So Microsoft actually has a small AI office, and we are creating it in every part of our platform. So if we've been plagiarism or a violation of work, that may go to somebody else for credit.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I wish we could continue this conversation because I'm full of jokes and full of like articles that I read, but we're gonna have to wrap it up. So I wanted to, we have like 30 seconds. So if you had a piece of advice for someone who's listening to this, who might now be interested in AI, what would it be in 10 seconds?
I would actually say use AI to learn AI. You don't have to be a genius. Go into ChatGPT and just ask, what is AI? And you can keep asking it. It'll get you the answer you want sooner or later. If you're not a digital friendly person, probably it's going to be a bad place to be. But if you're using your phone, iPhone, Android, laptop, ask AI the questions that you want to ask. And then you'll figure out you already do AI, you just didn't know it. You just didn't realize that's what we call AI. So it's already there. Be a part of it. Don't be afraid of it.
All right, thank you. That's great advice. So we're going to wrap up today's segment of New World Workforce, our first episode. High five, Angel. We did great. High five to all of our guests also for being amazing and sharing all of your knowledge. We hope that you'll stay tuned, like you'll follow us and you'll listen in, and you'll share this podcast with everyone, and tune into our next episode, which would be soon. Hopefully it'll be posted.
Thank you. Thank you to all of our guests. Have a good night.